My God, it's hot. Since the last big snowfall that we had in Midway, the heat this spring and summer so far has been absolutely unrelenting. Sure, here in the Mont Blanc Massif we haven't broken any all-time temperature records yet, but it's been the unrelenting, persistent, intense nature of this heat that is the real problem. We've had heat wave after heat wave after heat wave, with at most 1 or 2 days of slightly cooler temperatures in between. But still, so far, between those heat waves, it's still been above average temperatures, it's still been hot. Of course, that's been the same right across the Alps, but it has been worse here in the west. The heat waves have been most intense in Western Europe. And as such, the high mountains are an absolute mess. This is probably the worst I've ever seen it, and it's still only mid-July. You think back over the last 10 years or so, picture the hottest, driest summers that we've had, and the conditions that you've seen in the high mountains in mid to late August is what we're seeing now, if not worse. It really is that bad, I'm not exaggerating. This is one of the many, many signs, literally, of just how bad it is this summer. The stairs down onto the glacier from Skyway are no longer open, basically. They don't reach the ground anymore. It would theoretically be possible to still get down. There is a bit of a ladder and a fixed rope, but it says it's closed, so I'm going to respect that. Don't know if the bottom stairs are anchored to anything or not. Could just be hanging in mid-air, so yeah. They know the only way down now is to go via the Torino Refuge and walk the long way round. Those are the Tudor steps coming down from Skyway, where I stood just a few seconds ago, and this is the massive bomb hole which is now at the bottom of the steps. Probably a couple of years ago it was completely flat across here, you just walk straight over. Yeah, last summer there was a bit of a bomb hole here. You'll remember probably my pre-Teryx Academy Alpine video. I was up here as well, approximately this time of year. There was a big crevasse opening up here, but still, you could still quite easily walk across over there, but not anymore. But a little bit of good news, if you can call it that. Thanks to the dry and mostly stable weather that we have seen so far this spring and summer, they managed to get through the maintenance that was required on the panoramic lift ahead of schedule, at least a week ahead of schedule. So now the panoramic, as of yesterday, is open, which makes it so much easier to get over here into Italy and climb things like the Marbre and the Entreves. Whether you want to is another matter, but it's now a simple cable car ride across into Italy. So that is the big news of today's video. But the other big news is the Matterhorn is all but closed, at least from the Swiss side. The Zermatt guides have stopped guiding on the Matterhorn for indefinitely because it's just too hot, too dry, too dangerous and too unstable. Yes, there's nothing to physically stop you climbing it if you want to do it by yourself, but if the guides aren't taking clients up there, that's all the information that you need really. If it's too dangerous for them, it's too dangerous. They know what they're doing, they're there every day of the season, and if they've stopped guiding it already, that tells you everything you need to know really. Well, that's pretty shocking in itself. I've never known them stop guiding on it this early in the season. The hut's only been open about 2 weeks and already the season is effectively over. Okay, if temperatures do drop, especially towards the latter part of August, they will almost certainly reopen things again. It's a massive money maker for them, so they're not going to miss out on that income. But for the foreseeable, it's not going to get any colder anytime soon, so I can't imagine they're going to reopen it anytime soon. Right on cue, you can probably hear a little bit of rockfall right here behind me. Here in the Mont Blanc Massif, again, it's a mess. It's so dry. The glaciers are incredibly open. The snow is incredibly soft. Snow bridges are weak or non-existent. Bergschrans are huge. It's a terrible season for climbing really. It's not the year to be coming alpine climbing. If I was you, I'd be going swimming and going sailing instead. Rockfalls are happening everywhere, all the time. Not just on obscure and esoteric routes, but on major well-travelled classics. You can see the Marbre behind me over there. There's a load of huge boulders round about the descent. I don't know how recent that is, it's probably quite old, but the Marbre itself is becoming very, very unstable in recent years. Likewise over on the Entreve, again, there's lots of loose rock now, even on the ridge crest, which historically was pretty stable because it's so well travelled. You do need to be really careful now, there's still a lot of loose rock. You'll probably be able to see behind me the approach for Dent de Gion, Roche-Fortret, and also obviously the Grand Jurasse Traverse is now completely dry. It's just all loose scree, loose choss. so you need to be incredibly careful if you've got anybody above or below you if you're approaching there. And inevitably, when the weather's good, Dent du Gers itself is incredibly busy, so there's always going to be people above and below you, so it's going to be very, very unpleasant, and things are going to be raining down on you constantly, so keep your helmet on and keep your wits about you. Speaking of the Grand Girasse, the casting route on the Walker Spur, the main classic rock route up the north face, is now completely snow-free, which yes, does make the climbing easier in places, but it means you have to carry a hell of a lot of water up the route with you. There's now nowhere to melt snow to refill your water supply until you get to the summit ridge. So, especially if you're planning on bivvying somewhere on the route, you're going to need to carry a lot of water with you, which means carrying a lot of weight. You're not going to be moving very fast. As for the conditions on the route themselves, well, I mean, it's dry, therefore it's loose. There was a team that needed to be rescued off it fairly recently because a rockfall caused some major injury to at least one of the party. The red chimney itself is very loose, very unstable, very hard to protect. The crux section's lovely dry rock, but it's a big mountain route, there's going to be loose rock everywhere. The descent is still possible down the Var Normale into Italy, but as I've said before, if you're climbing it up from the French side, you're not going to have come up the descent route before, so you're not going to be aware of what the conditions are like. So you need to stack all the cards in your favour, bivvying on the summit and descending in the early hours of the morning when it's at its coldest, the glacier and the ice is at its most stable, because the glacier, yeah, everything passes, but things are opening up rapidly. You don't want to be crossing some of those snow bridges late in the day, especially if you don't know what they're like. On the Grand Girasse Traverse, there's now basically a swimming pool next to the Canzia bivouac because the snow has melted so much there. But that has also undermined the bivouac itself. As you'll see from these photos, the hut is now leaning precariously towards the pond, and it's just built on basically loose scree now all the snow has melted. So it's only a matter of time before the baby hut itself falls into that depression, into that pond. So probably best not planning to sleep in that hut if you are doing the Girasse Traverse. But tactically, most people will opt to continue further on and sleep further on bivvy further onto the ridge anyway. It makes more sense these days, just from a tactical point of view, regardless. As for the south side of Mont Blanc, most of the routes from the Italian side are in a pretty bad state. Some are still possible. I believe the Gonella route, the normal route from the Italian side, does still go, but it's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be nice. Some of the other harder routes, such as the Namata Ridge, that's completely dry, so that's also now pretty dangerous, very loose, very chossy. The Briard Ridge is still possible from what I gather. Again, it's dry rock most of the way, but that actually makes it easier, the climbing easier for most of the way up. But again, you have to be aware of rockfall, plan your schedule accordingly, and if there's teams above you, watch out. As for the Trois Monts route, thanks to some good overnight refreezes a week or so ago, people did find a new way across the previously impassable crevasse band way out to the left, but that puts you in danger of the hanging seracs above, so it may be possible, but it's definitely not desirable. As far as I'm aware, nobody has yet fixed a ladder across the crevasse. I won't be surprised if it happens at some point soon, because it's a major moneymaker yet again. The guides want to keep being able to take clients up and down Mont Tackle, so I imagine at some point this season there will be a fixed ladder on the problematic crevasse. But for now, at least, to my knowledge, there isn't yet, so probably best still avoided, especially if there hasn't been an overnight refreeze. That also means for people doing the Royal Traverse, again, as far as I'm aware, everybody is descending down the Gouta route, not coming down Trois Monts route, which is definitely the sensible way to be doing it right now. As for the Gouta route itself, of course, the Grand Couloir now is completely dry, and that is always a danger. Rockfalls coming down there pretty much constantly, so it's basically a game of Russian roulette. If you're going to do it, you're taking life into your own hands, you've got to be quick, you've got to have your wits about you, and pick your time and just go. It's not really any safer at night or in the early hours of the morning. Once the snow's gone, there's basically nothing holding it together anyway, so it doesn't matter whether it's frozen or not because it's all loose choss, so it's always dangerous. Sure, it's probably more dangerous late in the afternoon sun, but it's still dangerous even in the early hours of the morning. In the Latour Basin, the Arête de Tarbes on the Guy de Tour is still possible. Table Couloir itself is almost completely dry, but you only need to be able to go up a few metres of the chossy scree in that before you can branch out onto the ramp that takes you over onto the Arête. So again, it's not particularly pleasant, but it is still possible. People are still doing the Table Arête. And as for the Var Normale, the way down itself, again, the Bergstrand, as always, is opening up and up, but as you're looking down the slope, it passes well on the left still. It's not causing any particular problems as of yet. In the Argentière Basin, the Minaugasse on the Guide d'Argentière is an absolute mess. There's a sizable rock band near the top which is virtually impassable on the way up. It may well be completely impassable. People have been descending it after climbing the Jardin Ridge, for example, but even that's not particularly pleasant. It's pretty chossy. You can help yourself through and past most of the difficulties, but there's still lots of rockfall coming down even once you're back onto the ice, onto the glacier, so it's probably over now for the Guide d'Argentière too. On the Drew, there's been a fairly sizable rockfall on the left branch of the abseil descent, and that has dislodged at least one of the anchors there. So if you are planning to do any of the routes on the Drew and descend down that, take the right branch of abseils as you're looking down the route rather than the left branch. It is apparently still possible if you do take the left branch, there's tat and various other things which will get you past it, but yeah, it's definitely best avoided. Whilst I'm over here in Italy, I'll point out there's been a rockfall on the summit ridge of the Gran Paradiso. This has affected the normal route, requiring a bit of a diversion, but it's not problematic. It happened quite a while ago now. There's a very obvious alternative path. So yes, there are still loose stones on the traverse across onto the ridge you need to be aware of, and there's always a chance that more could come down, so don't hang around when you're in the firing line, but other than that, everything is still okay. People have still been successfully crossing the Valley Blanche on foot. You don't need to now. Panoramic is open, but if for whatever reason you want to do that, you need to take a big detour down and around the main crevasse field in the middle of the upper part of the Valley Blanche. There is now no way through the midsection where the path would normally go earlier in the season. This is the path you have to take if you're wanting to cross the Valley Blanche at the moment. Got a detour all the way underneath this crevasse zone, down to pretty much below the panoramic here, and then head back up there. This is pretty depressing. The Jaeger couloir is completely dry. Even the Great Giovasuti couloir is almost broken in its midsection right now. I've never seen this before. Sure, no one's going to be skiing them in the summer, but in days gone by they were summer alpine routes on snow top to bottom, and now, like I say, from Bergschrund all the way to the summit, the Jaeger is completely dry. Indeed, it looks like it's got water running all the way down it, which means it's melting even at over 4,200 metres. That is pretty depressing. Let's show you just how much of a mess the Guida Medioretta is in right now. It's not pleasant. I've never seen it like this. Even the worst heat waves we've experienced here in the Alps, it's never been this bad. I mean, it's got like a good 10-15 metre section of mixed ground. It's usually ice all the way down, but yeah, it's now just chossy rock. It's not difficult. You've still got a really good trench along the first section, so even though it's messy, it's not exposed. This is just easy scrambling, and if you wanted, you can rappel from there across this section, but again, like I say, it's not actually difficult, it's just a mess. You're actually in a crevasse here for this part of the ridge. This is crazy. There is some black ice you will encounter just here. So, in the morning when it's frozen, it's going to be a little bit tricky, but once again, I'm in my soft boots and flexible crampons. I've had no issue coming down there as I am. So, again, it's not difficult, it's just messy. As for the conditions on this, the French side of the Massif, the Point National Traverse now looks to be completely black ice and choss. Definitely not worth doing, it looks horrendous. Same goes obviously for Tackle Triangle, just stay away, it's completely dry, completely bare. The Arête de Cosmique is also now best avoided. It's almost completely dry, it's going to be incredibly chossy, incredibly loose around the rappels. Even the Northern Bypass is probably mostly dry, it's also probably quite loose. And there's reportedly several loose blocks on the exit chimneys on the north side as you're nearing the end of the route. So again, the guides are recommending to avoid that bit. There is a southern bypass, which is apparently more stable, but that also bypasses the crux. So most people aren't going to be happy about doing the Cosmic Arête without doing the crux. So basically, save it for another day. It's gone now for this season. High Alpine Rocks, probably the name of the game if you do want to do some alpinism. It was incredibly busy today on the south side of the pillar of the Guida Midi. That you can expect with Glacier Retreat. Accessing all the routes is going to be much harder than it used to be, and probably harder than any of the guidebooks suggest, because Glacier Retreat now is so fast. You can expect an extra pitch, maybe an extra 2 pitches to get onto some of the routes. On the normal route of the Guida Pain or Guida Pagna, a couple of loose blocks have recently been purged, but there is apparently still plenty of loose rock around, so that's worth bearing in mind. The Nantillon Glacier over on the north side of the Chamonix has got a big crevasse running across its entire width, about 2/3 of the way up. It is still very possible to cross it, but it's going to require jumping. There's also lots of black ice now on the upper section. Indeed, it's virtually entirely black ice in one part, and lower down it's going to be almost constant rockfall, so again, probably best avoided now. Once again, the best alpine conditions to be found in the Massif are over on the Dôme de Miage and the Guy de Biernassi. You will encounter some black ice now, particularly between the summit of the Guy Biernassi and the Piton des Italiens, but as of yet it's not problematic, so if you want to do some big alpine routes, yet again, that is the place to go. It's a long walk in, a long approach, but it's worth it. Finally, over in the Guy Rouge, virtually everything now is going to have a snow-free approach. Even the approach to the Crochets Traverse is now entirely snow-free. There are still snow patches around about there, but you can avoid all of them. I'm not 100% certain of the descent. There's probably still some snow on the descent, but again, you're going to be able to avoid the worst of it. And it won't be frozen when you're descending regardless, so you probably get away with approach shoes even on routes such as that. So that, unfortunately, is the rather depressing situation in the Alps this summer. No doubt some of you are going to start accusing me of being overly pessimistic once again and claim that you had a great time on your Alpine holiday on XYZ, but yeah, sure, good for you if you had fun, but this is the reality. This should not be like this. It is too hot, too dry, too lean, too loose. Everything is unstable. This is just not the conditions that you want or need for summer alpine climbing. And also, I mean, this is the reality going forward. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and there is no avoiding it. The alpine summer is going to have to start getting earlier and earlier and earlier, because you just can't climb things when it's like this. Sure, you can adapt. Some routes will actually become safer, potentially drier and easier. But for most routes, even if they are dry rock, they require the permafrost to be well frozen, and that's all but gone in a lot of places now. So yeah, it's depressing, but there's no hiding from the reality now. This is what the future of alpinism holds. We are going to see a drop in temperatures this weekend, back to something around about average, which, considering how hot it's been for so long, average temperatures are actually going to feel pretty cold in the high mountains. Indeed, there might even be a little bit of snow up here in the Guy de Midi. Nothing worth dusting the skis off and scraping off the wax. We could get a few centimetres of snow up here on Saturday night, but as soon as the sun comes out, it's going to be gone, so it's not going to change anything at all. And then moving forward, the long-term outlook, it is staying mostly warm and dry. High pressure is going to be dominant. It's going to move around, so occasionally we'll have a northerly wind, it will be a bit cooler, but it's still going to be mostly dry, apart from obviously thunderstorms. But that doesn't bring any new moisture into the area. That's just the moisture which is evaporating out of the ground, going up into the clouds and then falling back down on the ground again. So it's not going to help the drought situation either. In the short to medium term, there's no sign of any fronts coming through bringing any proper sustained rainfall. So as I said earlier, maybe reconsider your alpine trip this summer and go on a beach holiday instead. You've got to play to the conditions, and this year things are just not in condition.